Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is John. This report is for the 22nd. Take a look at the chart. We were expecting that this was not a pretty configuration and that we would get some weakness from it. And sure enough, we did. We weren't overly concerned because we could see that there was the potential for this slight pivot with the nice readings here from the extreme histogram. And we figured somewhere around 1960. In fact, let me put up the 50K chart and we can take a look at that. So here we had it was right around there. In fact, I marked it even on the 5K. Might as well start there since that's the earliest time period. So right here about the 1960 number, we came down beautifully, put in the deep red, letting us know that new lows were going to come down. We started getting some higher pivots from the green. What we didn't get was that nice dip coming down below for the steel. And so what happens in those particular cases, you then have to look for these kinds of crossovers. And in this particular case, we got down to the 1960, ended up with the buy, and then boom, immediately ended up getting the green back above the cyan. It did form a spider pretty quick right there, but the rising of the red was pretty strong. And then it was right about here we were looking for the potential for a retrace unless the red moved above, and that's all we were looking for was the red to make a higher move, and once it did, then we knew that that pivot was going to continue up to the upside. Did put in positive extreme, retraced one of them. The second one here, you got like 2/3 of it going into that setup right there. So all in all, not bad. We can see that we're starting off with a pretty decent return, though we do have the dip below the red line right there. You know, what's going to happen likely is that we're probably going to get a little euphoric boost from this. We're going to have to see that red break past it in order to continue move. Not seeing the steel again go down, we have to get that green above the cyan to presuppose that we're going to have a continuation on it. Otherwise, fine, looks good to take it, but we have to be very cautious with where that is. And so it's not one of those that I would let loose. Take the gains if it dips below, and then you just keep resetting until you get the proper breakout configuration, and then you're able to just let it do its thing, so to speak. Starting out not too great either here with this dip back of the green. Yes, you have steel rising. That should give it some support. The key is going to be watching the cyan, whether it gets back above zero and takes out this previous high, because at a certain point, once you start making the higher peaks, then you can expect lower. And with the deep red, it's got to resolve itself, and for now it's holding up okay. You can see the same thing here for the NASDAQ, a little bit weaker in that it had already given like a de facto cross where you have the red coming down and the green just kind of slides. And the nice part about it was steel was all going up at the same time, so it gave it a little more push to it. But again, fading green, not the greatest thing, and rising cyan in this case is going to take out, what was that level right there, plus 0.60. Was that the peak? Yeah. And right now it's at 1, so starting the day off. Now that doesn't mean we're not going to finish the day higher and then it has its impact. That's certainly well within the cards for that, particularly with the rising steel, particularly like in the Dow here where you get above the cyan. That's a bullish configuration to begin with there. Then you're going to have to see the turnaround though on the others in order to justify it. Good point to bring in the radar screens, and we'll scroll through. Here's the NASDAQ. And now the S&P. Broad range, both buys and sells, so still pretty healthy as far as all that goes. I know you're hearing a lot of comparisons down to 94 and that this could just continue to rise, and all the people who are seeing overbought and everything are just going to be confused. There's potential for that, as long as you're playing with the Fed doing what it's doing. It's like we learned way back in 2010, and that's just easy money. Market has nowhere to go but up. The pressures built into that setup with it, so take advantage of dips, and we continue to follow what the readings are because they're still showing us where the money is going, because nowhere else to get yield other than in the market at this particular point. Oil rising. We had the crossover back here. This was a strong move coming up and progressing nicely. At a certain point, though, that will create a negative relationship. Now, in this situation with the TLT, you still have green above cyan. In fact, cyan is dipped down below the red and as well right at that 0 point. So even though this would be to most a reversal hammer, potential is you could still get just sideways or a little bit more back to the upside with it. And gold nearly reaching overbought in this particular case. That's a nice crossover with the red moving into solid. The problem you got there is the steel dipping down is going to put a little downside pressure into it. So I would expect it to be a bit more in the flat category. Doesn't look hyper bearish or anything like that. And the euro sparked up with some nice bifractals just the other day. The problem was you didn't get the cross above the red. That's got to take place. Otherwise, you're still going to have a little bit of continuation to the downside before it makes the reversal. So definitely be watching that intraday for buy signals to be able to take. But not unless you're going to start to see some improvement. I mean, a nice extreme histogram there. So that all looks good. It's just a matter of putting in the buy stop and then trailing any move lower until we see some improvement from that. And that can be from individual tick charts intraday, however you prefer it. Overbought with the X on the positive extremes there, but still looks good overall. Continues to make new highs, even though it didn't close the highs, still popped up to the new level. CLF, interesting, finally gets all that full retrace all the way down right there. And did so coming off the red. Now you've retraced the lows here. You're starting to make a little bit higher histogram. Slight improvement there. It could present a decent buy configuration, but you're going to see that steel come down and you're going to get some action out of the green to show that there's some buyers from the daily standpoint. Likewise, we have the same 15 right there. Could be worth a put opportunity for the week. Even if you get the shares, you're going to get a decent premium the way it's moving. Another nice setup has been the buy setups that have been coming with the WLT off of the, well, I believe this is the C program. Click it here to make sure. A, I would say, okay. Pretty good with the cyan candles. Been pretty solid with that all the way through. Take a look at a couple of the alert charts while we're here. Apple still had that crossover, a little bit of weakness coming through there, but you're just going to see the rise from the steel. Already made little higher pivots there. You're going to have to see the crossover though. Nice extreme histogram, so maybe another little bit of weakness, nothing dramatic. Still holding right around that ABM level, so as long as you're there, it's an opportunity to look at acquiring additional. Amazon we had zero issues with, continue to like it. Baidu had produced the turnaround for the green, even though it was in the start of the red right there. We had the nice buy from it, and all of a sudden everyone's shocked that it shoots up, and that's okay. Let them be shocked. Not my fault. FAS, you know, kind of blah, so to speak here, holding its own, pretty much just like the market. Kind of blah. FB had the crossover, it's the same as Baidu within that setup. Little red herring fake out, and sure enough, nice move. In fact, it's good to take out the highs that would, I mean, the high peak here on the red DOC, that would present even further continuation on that. No shock from that standpoint at all. Google also within that turnaround, it should be doing a little better than it did. So we looked for that, got a little overbought in relationship, so a little tired of the buyers, but still looks decent. And Netflix would be next. We could see that we had the green pop above, and then boom, the other day green started as well, and then right at the open it skyrocketed and a little bit overbought, but you got to see the red turn around there. It's not going to be hard to take out that peak, so that should give it some leeway. PCLN's been flat to nothingness for a little while here. Finally produced de facto cross and on higher pivots. That has the potential of making a move, particularly now if steel gets above the cyan. This could be the start of the turnaround for it. So it really didn't suffer too much weakness. and has the potential to now move back up past the 1300 range for its highs. Tesla still had been in, blah, and we've been fighting back and forth. Finally turned around the corner and crossed back over. So I'd be looking at intraday. Any intraday buys you can certainly take advantage of at this particular point. Obviously, we can get a continuation of the reversal going back to the other side. The green's got to really break past this peak. I'd like to see it get back over zero. It's been healthy with the red staying above white, but now you got to break into the new zone for the red. It's got to get inside that negative 7.5 to have some momentum to it. And we had the de facto cross that happened over here, and then the other day, boom, we got the steel crossing above, and that continued going forward. And so from the first signal there to the one, you finally got all the ducks going into row. Yes, we've got the dip below the red line again. That's going to lead to a retrace at a certain point here. So we have to watch to make sure that the green gets above the cyan. So you have to be a little tighter with the stops at first, but it was nothing wrong with it. It's been a nice couple day chart too on the 15-minute alerts. It's been pretty straightforward. So continue to follow that. I may be sending out the adjustments to the programs. I noticed that on member comment on the alerts that were coming through, because I had adjusted and put in the alert setups, it allowed for a situation where it shows up false because you had true and false on the input. So I'm gonna have to go through and make some adjustments on that, so that's not as big a visual when you see the alert come through. So we'll get those things taken care of and get that out to everyone. As always, trade well. We'll talk again tomorrow.